This is lesson 92 through 96, part 10, G major and the Swan. We're now going to learn about G major, 2 and 3 octave scales and arpeggios. We're going to learn about new markings and a new legend, new symbols that we'll see in the Swan. And we are going to prepare for the Swan. And in the next class, we will play Swan in first position without doing all of the fancy shifting. And then we will play the Swan the way that a professional would, with proper positions, shifting, and things that make sense musically. So the key, this key of scales and arpeggios can be found on page 18 of the Practical Scales and Arpeggios violin book. Highly recommended. I made a dedicated scale book for medium to more advanced players that have all the 2 and 3 octave scales that you would need to prepare for like all state regions and any kind of auditions. That will greatly help you as you progress and get more advanced. Check it out, Practical Scales and Arpeggios by Sergei Panov. Below, I'll write out the scales just so that we can properly prepare to play the Swan. All right, we'll start with number 92, scale in 2 octaves in G major. We already know this, so this is just simply a review. I hope you remember that we have to switch from a high 2 and G and D to a low 2 and A and E. Going up, we're using open strings, and coming down, we're using pinkies. 93, arpeggio in 2 octaves. Now, the 3 octave G major scale, we have 2 shifts. And we'll come down, and we'll go up, and we'll come down exactly the same way, so it's pretty easy. When we get to the A string, you see natural? Instead of playing third finger on A, we're going to shift to third position. We're going to go to the E string, and after the B, we're in third position because 1 is on the A. We're going to shift the half step to C, which is 5th position, and we're going to stretch our pinky. All right, so here's 94, G major scale in 3 octaves. Can be found in book Learn Violin Fast, book 3, page 74. Now the 3 octave arpeggio, this is number 95. There's a couple of tricky parts here. The first one is we shift during the open D. So if you remember, we make mistakes when there are changes, and shifts are the most common mistakes that we make. But if you're shifting during an open string, where else can you shift? The trick is to shift from the last note played with the finger. So I'm going to play the G major scale first, octave, arpeggio in 3 octaves, and then we're going to talk about how to practice it. So here's the arpeggio. So the first shift happens during open D, and then when we practice that shift is we go to the last note played with the finger, which is 2 on G, and then we'll slide to 3 on G. You'll notice how the scales have a little dash between 2 fingerings. The dash means shift. It means that your hand has to move. And the next shift, the shifts are the same going up and down in arpeggio and scale, so you only need to practice it once. We're going to find a D in third position, open D, and third tape, a third note on the A string, and we're going to a G. It's a 4th, so D, E, F sharp, G. So the way we count intervals in music is counting the first note, going to the top, and however many letters you counted, that's how many. What is the distance, the interval? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a 4th, D to G. And how do I know that I'm playing those in tune? We'll open D, we'll have voice vibration. And when I get to the G, there'll be forced vibration. So just listen for those. And after you practice your shifts, you can even try to add some slurs. So for the arpeggio, you could do slur 3. So the next page contains the legend, symbols, and the meanings used in Swan. When you see a flat line, it indicates a shift. When you see a hairpin, greater than, or it starts from a line and expands, that means crescendo, right? You get gradually louder, so more pressure, more bow, more distance. Decrescendo is the opposite, right? They're hairpins. It means to get softer. Roman numeral 1 means first position, that your pointer is on the first tape or first note played with the finger. Roman numeral 2 is you're on the second, 3, 4, and 5th. So I believe this one goes up to 5th position. All right, and then we're going to talk through some notes and suggestions. This is number 96. Remember that there are no universal markings for positions. Sometimes you'll see 1A for a particular string, and it might be confusing with first position. 1A usually means corda, which in Italian means string, right? So, but every edition uses their own thing, with Roman numerals usually used pretty commonly, but again, you have to check, alrighty? So just make sure you check with what the legend is at the beginning of the book or the method book that you might be using. So we're going to give the suggestions for this one here, and then the next lesson I'm going to play through without any suggestions, and then we'll play through with proper suggestions, with proper fingering and shifting, alrighty? So we're going to start on the A string, and this is for thinking ahead. For number 98, the Swan with the proper positions. Okay, so we're going to start in 4th position, meaning our 1 is on the 4th tape, right, on the A string, and we're going to try to use full bows for most of the piece. Only 8 notes should be using less than full bows, 8 notes. By keeping your bow speed, distance, and resistance pressure consistent, you will get a very smooth sound and beautiful phrases. So the bow should feel like it's always moving. So the way that we create this beautiful right? The way we create this beautiful melody is that the bow is going to press and is going to move no matter what the left hand is doing, right? So the bow is really where the artistry of violin playing lies. It's the bow, right? We're going to take note that of similar parts that have different rhythms. For example, the last note of measure 3 and 7 are similar, but measure 3 has rest at the end, and measure 7 has the last note last until the end of the measure. So there should be no rest or break in sound here. So very common, when you have very similar notes that look the same, our brain will automatically assume they're the same. We have to make sure we check and we follow composer's wishes, and we play long notes to their full value and short notes not. It is our job as performers to make sure we do our best to play and perform accurately. On long notes, be sure to estimate the proper bow speed. Remember that the speed is distance over time. If you're in a car, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour per se, right? It's miles, distance, per hour, time. Right, so your distance of the bow cannot change unless you want to get a longer bow or shorter bow, which I don't think is a wise idea. So just change your bow speed, right? If your bow moves too quickly, you will not have enough left and you will cut long notes short. So very common rhythm mistake is not that we can't count, but we just have no more bow. And so we move on when we're out of bow. Where in reality, we should have been a little bit more careful about our bow speed. Right, an easy way to remember is that when you have a long note or a slur, you're going to think slower bow. And when you have shorter notes, you can think faster bow. Okay, while you begin learning this piece, please listen to the original. It's written by Saint-Saëns, Camille Saint-Saëns, for cello, and it's part of the Carnival of the Animals, a really just fantastic collection. Highly recommend listening to the whole thing, but for purposes of this lesson, you could just listen to the Swan. It's originally written for cello solo, so we're kind of stealing their piece. But anyway, so yes, listen to the original and try playing the clean version, the one that has no markings, just in first position, just to get the notes, and then try playing as suggested. So as always, there's multiple ways to play anything. There's not one absolute correct or wrong way for most things, right? But no means what I suggest here in this book is should be taken as gospel. Basically, they're just suggestions to get you started. If you work with a private teacher or somebody advanced, they might suggest something different, which is perfectly normal. And this is where the musicianship and the artistry comes in. Each person has their own way of doing things, and that's perfectly fine. And that's what makes us so just cool and beautiful, that we can do different versions, different ways, and they're all interesting. There are some things that just sound unmusical, but we're talking about just playing musically and doing things different way. All right, I hope you're enjoying your progress. In the next lesson, we're going to play this one in simple way, and then we're going to play it the proper way that a professional would play it at a recital. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe. It really, really helps. I hope you're enjoying this progress. I hope this isn't too overwhelming. If anything is, you can skip ahead, you can go back. And I hope to see you in the next lesson. Thanks.